Welcome to this SDX Central webinar broadcast. Today we're going to be hearing some fantastic uCPE insights from Beth Cohen, Cloud Product Technologist at Verizon, and Sven Freudenfeld, CTO of Telecom Applications at Lanner Electronics. Okay, let's get started.
So let's talk a little bit about the Verizon Virtual Network Services components and how they work together. This diagram really shows all the components together. So we have the applications on the left here, and customer applications can be anywhere. They can be in the data center, they can be in the cloud, in multi-clouds. We don't care. They can also be at the edge. And users, again, they can be anywhere as well. They could be in the company headquarters, they could be remote locations, they can be mobile users, and of course, increasingly, they can be working from home. And then another important consideration is that they sit on top of transport that is agnostic. So, obviously, customers can use private IP, they can use the internet, 5G. Again, it's transport agnostic. What's cool about everything is that all of this is orchestrated together. So we've reduced the complexity of delivering these services to where they need to be in the network. Next slide. So we have managed services on top. So we have the network operations, analytics, all those other services, including, of course, some professional services for customers that need a little help. And then the network services, think of it as network as a service. We have routing and, of course, SD-WAN and security, which are the most popular combination. But we also have unified communications, sessions border control, and WAN optimization. And these services can be deployed both on a hosted platform, but what we'll be talking about today is really on the universal CPE. And these are service chained together to deliver the services that customers need. And we took a branded approach. So we work with the vendors that are most popular for our customers. So Palo Alto for security, just to name a few. Versa for SD-WAN, Cisco, Riverbed, etc. And we take the time to certify that these service chain combinations and these vendors all work on the platform. Moving on. So we have the capability of delivering these services on any platform, ranging from dedicated hardware all the way over to the public cloud. But again, we're going to be concentrating in the middle on that universal CPE, which gives you the flexibility of delivering multiple services on a single platform. Think of it as a mini network as a service at the edge. On top of that, we also offer the capability of delivering those services, management of those services, ranging from full management, network management outsourced, all the way to what we call monitor only, which allows customers to manage their own services without the headache of managing the hardware and managing the images. So moving on. So let me talk a little bit about those service chains, because that's really the key to the service. The service chains, it looks easy on the surface, right? You just string together SD-WAN services plus security services, which, as I've mentioned earlier, is the most popular combination. However, what we have found, and we've been selling these services for over 3 years now, is that there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that those service chains are valid and work correctly. And not only do we validate that the service chains work together, we also stress test them for performance. So we know that when we deliver those services on the universal CP, that they will perform as expected, from the SLA perspective, from the performance perspective, and from the features perspective. So we have, and that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. We built a test lab that focused in on delivering service chains and delivering, and with the capability of stress testing those chains to make sure that we can honestly say, this is the performance you will expect to get from these services. So moving on. So obviously Verizon's a global company and these services are available globally. Another thing to think about is that we built these services using open source software. And of course, we're using open hardware. And I know Sven will be talking a little bit more about that as we go. But we have our hosted nodes are located in 32 nodes around the globe. And then our universal CP is available in over 100 countries today. So moving on. This is just a sample of the country availability for virtual network services. And this is not a comprehensive list by any means. Moving on. I will turn it over to Sven to talk about, what does hardware and software disaggregation really mean?
Thank you, Beth. And the whole idea is that we disaggregating hardware from software is to be more flexible, and in particular to scale applications at the edge. So what does a black box, white box, or gray box actually mean? So traditionally, when we looked at the deployment model, when you buy appliances from a single vendor, you locked into a specific architecture. That means that you have an ASIC dedicated for a specific network function, and you have software on top of it, which is associated to the actual physical hardware. If you want to do changes on a black box, it's a very challenging undertaking, because you are asking for modification, which are not seen as an open architecture. So black box dedicated for a specific network function with specific software.
Well, let me add just a comment about that. So not only are you locked into that specific hardware, but you're also locked into the inability to add new features to that software. So, if there's something that's hardware dependent, you're stuck.
Correct. So that limits the scalability aspect, and by using it at the edge sites. The edge is mostly dynamic for introducing new services, and therefore the black box may not be the best option on that. The second option is a gray box. The gray box, it's still in control of a single vendor, which allows to make resources available for a virtual network function from a different vendor. So meaning that you're still in that lock-in mechanism to that gray box vendor, and the gray box vendor will control how much resources are allowed for a third-party VNF. So it's still a limitation. It opens up a little bit, but it's not giving the flexibility as you may need in terms of networking, in terms of network protocols, and not in terms of network security and so forth.
Well, then you're limited, the third-party VNF is really limited by the vendor, right? So, you're very locked in.
Yeah. So the ideal solution is having sort of a white box, an agnostic physical hardware, which is not dependent on a specific vendor, where we can use open source elements to use orchestration, to use virtual network functions, and really be able to swap in and swap out application software based on your needs, as well to scale. So it could be, applications for unified communications, could be applications for virtual firewall and the enterprise. But really, the whole idea here is to have an agnostic physical hardware which can host multiple virtual network functions from multiple vendors. So we are a close aligned with Verizon, and ultimately we are the engine behind the virtual network services, meaning we are the four wheels providing the services to the customer. That means we have an optimized hardware platform which provides all the elements for security from a physical point of view, to be able to operate multiple virtual network functions, moving away from a physical network function. So introducing security, routing function, switch function, but also other enterprise functions for unified communications and so forth. The key element here in this platform is that the underlying hardware need to support elements for zero-touch provisioning, or ZTP, as well self-activation. So you could imagine if you're moving your IT department into the cloud and you're still getting a physical box, it needs to be provisioned, or it needs to be turned up. And zero-touch provisioning as a key element for this physical hardware platforms are the key elements. So we are able to do remote diagnostic. We have a secure infrastructure for firmware and so forth, but also the network connectivity for self-activations, calling home in order to identify the device. So these are some of the elements on that. And they are the platforms we are building up for the Verizon Virtual Network Services are scaling from a low end all the way up to a high end, depending on the use case and the number of VNFs to be deployed.
Let me add just a few comments to that, just to kind of fill it out. What's really important here is not just the hardware at the edge, but there's also a whole set of controllers and orchestration elements that make that zero-touch provisioning work. And that happens in the cloud. And that's the secret sauce that makes the virtual network services product work.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. And this is a high-level architecture. We just picked a few partners we've been working with. It's really independent from these partners. It could be any other network operating system or any other orchestration software. The key element here is that the hardware is allowing to be scalable, to deploy multiple vendors, VNF, and orchestration, and then also have the capability for the infrastructure to be an open or based on open source in order to scale the hardware resources on the physical hardware. Majority on the universal CPE is based on x86, and the main reason is it's because it's providing some of the security functions, including the quick access technology, which provides security elements for applications at the edge, but also providing some of the other elements for virtualization, including SRIOV or other elements in order to scale the platform. So where do we sit as a vehicle for the Verizon network services? So we build appliances which are scalable. So meaning that under the hood, we're providing a scalable platform with security built in, which can adapt towards the business requirements to roll out services. So you may start with a small enterprise today, deploying multiple branches or smaller branches, and you grow the enterprise, and then you will reuse all the infrastructure you have, but you just need to add additional resources. So we're building these white boxes, and we size them between different categories. So small, medium, large, and extra large, just as you go into different types of sizes of enterprises, where you can then leverage the original network services from Verizon on this type of platforms. The elements what you most likely will deploy as a core elements are virtual private networks, SD-WAN functions, carrier grade NAT, but also some of the other elements as a baseline, and then potentially you will be able to add on additional virtual network functions like unified communications as a software package. So that's the advantage here, and we have done strong validation with over 30 partners who operating the software on top of the actual physical hardware. So these are some of the elements for scalability when you deploy multiple branches with universal CPEs or virtual CPEs. This is the category I mentioned earlier. The on-premise hardware, again, it's sort of, as a white box, is an open platform. The open platform contains a trusted platform management for security functions. It has all the elements for encryption as well for security. And with that, we can deploy DDoS applications, a firewall, anti-malware, and so forth. Anything what you normally know from an enterprise IT services. These are all residing partially on the customer premise equipment, but in association with the cloud. So it's leveraging the Verizon network services from a cloud base into the enterprise. So you don't have to worry of the upgrades and changes in the security settings, because this has all been managed by the Verizon network services. In addition to that, we're building in 4G LTE, soon to be 5G, but also Wi-Fi services. So that means that your branches are able to connect using Wi-Fi, or you can provide your customers Wi-Fi connectivity using that device as well at the same time. As well, using it as a secondary path in the case you have weak broadband connectivity. You can leverage the 4G connectivity for the services at the branch. And I highlighted a few of the elements what is needed in order to be a true white box to be deployed for enterprise services. Of course, the CPU and memory are the key functions, just like in any laptop. But some of the elements what makes it a more secure platform is primarily the trusted platform management, TPM, which allows to control access rights, and as well accessibility to the platform. So you can imagine that you have branches in different locations, and the elements for the security are built into secure the network, not only the network, but also the enterprise, to not bring down the enterprise services for the end customer. In addition to that, we've done and invested quite time and money into certification. So we certified these platforms to be operating on the Verizon network. So we certified with Verizon Open Device Initiative. So we are fully qualified, tested, certified with Verizon. So you can deploy that application and appliance instantly. So no need for provisioning time or certification times. It's all ready to go. And you just have to pick and choose your services, what you need to deploy onto the physical hardware. Another area for universal CPE and SD-WAN is or are applications outside the enterprise. So when you have a controlled environment, like a office branch, it's typically all in a controlled environment in terms of temperature and so forth. There are some use cases for the network services which are outside an office building. Maybe it might be a manufacturing plant. It may be a construction site. It may be other locations which are not
a substation, electrical substation utility.
Exactly. So a substation, but also you know, oil rigs or any other kind of use cases. So we have a hardware vendor behind Verizon to sustain this type of harsh environments, to make sure the platform can actually operate in an environment at minus 40 degrees C up to 70 degrees. From a software point of view, software is not temperature sensitive. The software remains the same. So you reuse the whole infrastructure, what Verizon Network Services gives you, but you deploy that into a different vertical market using different type of white boxes, which are designed and managed by Lana. In order to deploy the rich network services, we created a large ecosystem, and you can see here a very high-level snapshot. It can change dynamically depending on what the use cases are, but it's a mix of pure SD-WAN play with or orchestration with virtual network functions, or different types of networking aspects. So it's really up to the application or what you're trying to deploy in the network. We can leverage the partnership ecosystem to bring the services to you. And the most critical part is these appliances will be shipped globally. So we are not focusing on just one territory. A true white box needs to be able to be deployed in multiple regions. So we've done the full certification cycle. So not only for the North American market, but we have deployments together with Verizon in Europe and other locations, including Asia Pacific.
So that's super critical for Verizon's enterprise customers who are global customers. So the fact that we can ship to many countries around the globe and have it already fully homologated and fully, assured that we know that the country will accept it is very critical to our customers. They continually give us lists of countries that are difficult to get into, and we can be assured that we already know that it is fully approved for that country.
So, and what we see as a general trend, Lana itself is a hardware vendor, traditionally as an ODM partner for many of the network security, IT and network security companies. We have seen over the last 4 years an uptake on revenue on universal CPE and SD-WAN. So we see a shift in the industry where traditional security companies are offering a virtual or a VNF option without shipping a physical box. And that trend will continue. It will move towards a virtual network functions direction. And what we've seen is that most of the software companies are also cooperating with each other to make sure they can support each other on this physical white box approach. And also interesting to see is that we have the majority on this white box direction is taking place in America. So there is a good trend to see that the business model has been adopted in North America. And this is, I'll pass it on to you, Beth. I think you will give a bit of a insight on this.
Right, so thank you very much. That was really interesting. And it fits into what Verizon has seen in terms of where we've taken our virtual network services product. What we have found, over the past 3 years, is that it's the universal CPE offers a common operational model, which means that we have a platform that can support the lifecycle management over time. So customers are no longer stuck with appliances that are no longer supported, end of life. That many of our universal CPE deployments are with our tech refresh deployments. And we have a capability to, just by the fact that it's a universal CPE, allows for an automated tech refresh. So not only of the software, but also, over time, the hardware has a longer life cycle than the traditional appliances. And of course, what's super important to us is the integration between the NFVI and the VNF vendors. I know there's a lot of work happening in the open source community around supporting a common platform and a common reference model for delivering these services, particularly as we move away from the more traditional VM, virtual machine type models, and move into the containerized models. So the nice thing is the universal CPE already can support those container models without needing to change our hardware. Of course, as we mentioned, the global supply chain is important. And then, where are we going from here? We're taking, what we've done before and building and moving forward. We have the zero touch provisioning. We have that now. We're taking it to the next level. Automated upgrades, the capability of changing services on the fly. So that would be modify, add, change, and delete. So the idea is that customers will be able to change features elastically in real time. And of course, higher throughput is what we're looking for in the future. The box supports typically the box is a 1 gig, goes up to 1 gig, but there are modules that support 10 gig. And we do have customers, particularly ones that want to put it in a data center or a headquarters area, are looking for the higher throughput. Of course, faster performance of the service chains with the addition of SRIOV. We'll be able to take the performance so that it matches with the purpose, the bare metal deployments. And of course, demand for more ports, more disk, more tenant space. We have a product called Application Edge that allows customers to add applications right on the box, which really gives them a very nice little mini network as a service plus cloud as a service edge device. So moving on. So just to sum everything up, the universal CPE really gives us the capability of optimizing our hardware and at the same time being flexible about adding new configurations, tuning our performance, giving customers tenant space to be able to put their own applications on the box, and gives us the security and services in a nice, neat little package that supports it's transport agnostic, supports LTE, MPLS, internet, LAN, Wi-Fi, whatever. So that's a really strong message for us.